Yes. So I didn't start throwing hammer until I was 18. I was a freshman in college where I attended Johnson County, the track and field program there, and basically was just recruited for the shot put and the discus. I dabbled a little bit through high school. I didn't really have a coach from the small school that I went to, but my older sister threw pretty well in the shot put and won a state champion as a sophomore. So I really just kind of watched and learned from her and tried my best with like just natural athletic ability. And then that all kind of just transitioned to the hammer as well, picking it up and progressing pretty quickly.
Yeah, and what are like the transferable skills? I mean, you mentioned doing shot and put. How similar is the training between
Mhm.
that? Because I know at least most states that I know of have shot and put or shot put, but they don't have hammer throwing. So how similar is it to get into it, I
Mhm.
guess?
I mean, all the throws do have a lot of similarities, but they're also very different. With the shot put in the discus, you can do rotation. I was just a glider in the shot. But essentially just that power, that strength, that coordination, like reaction, all of those that kind of just happened naturally with me and like all the sports that I played growing up, being heavily involved in all different types of sports. It just allowed that kind of competitive nature to come through with hammer, it being something I haven't done before, and just wanting to be good at it. Just the athlete in me, wanting to strive to be the best. I think that's what really took it to that next level.
Right, and kind of speaking of taking it to the next level, what kind of training do you have to do that's different than maybe other sports that you have in yours?
Yeah, definitely the biggest adjustment to adapt to, definitely at the collegiate level versus middle school and high school sports, is just that training all year round. You no longer get to hop into different things and different activities or conditioning. It's all one sport focused, which was very much strength training, special strength training, and then throws. So right now, kind of for the past 11 years, I've been under the same coach, and that was 2 weeks off pretty much in a whole 365 days, and you're just working and you're grinding technically, all the work in the weight room, of course rehab and treatment, like there's so many things that play into it. And then being on the professional side, it's just that commitment, that sacrifice, that grind every day for no guarantee. There is no say that you're going to be one of the best, that you're going to ever be, a gold medalist and so forth, but it's just continuing to strive to be better every single year and doing what you can to um, hopefully see all that work pay off. So we definitely throw a lot. We throw a lot of heavy things, a lot of light things, everything in between. And then we lift about just the same 5 days a week, um, all year round.
And then can you tell me your favorite memory from hammer throwing? And this could be from start to finish or, whatever it may be.
I think it's probably, of course, the history making moment from Worlds 2022. Not only was that my first team, big world championship team that I made, but also my first medal, and then making history as the first Indigenous woman to medal at the World Track and Field Championships. But just a kind of a breakthrough year for me, coming off of 21, not making the Olympic team, and then just putting my head down and getting back to work, and just becoming such a more confident and stronger thrower, was just so great to kind of see play into fruition, and then have those people that have continued to follow me and cheer me on. It's just been so empowering, to have a community behind you and to kind of compete for something other than yourself.
Right, you kind of touched that. It was going to lead to my next question. Being an
Mhm.
Indigenous woman and representing the Comanche Nation, how important is that to you? And just kind of describe your relationship with them and what you're doing for them.
Yeah, being that I am Comanche and I was kind of raised in outside of the community, not around a lot of family members, to kind of honor and learn our culture and tradition, which where I feel is so beautiful and unique. And I just really wanted to dive into that, being on the top of my sport. My name getting out there and people sharing my story, my success just allowed me to make those connections and to build those relationships that allowed me to really, be proud of who I am and where I come from. And so attending Commanche Nation Fair and having the support financially with Commanche Nation Entertainment, that is so huge, because just in general, track and field doesn't have that financial stability. And it's really, really hard to continue to stay at the top when you have those financial burdens or the stress of having to have a part-time job and things like that. And I've done it all. I've had a full plate for a lot of my professional career. But it's just so nice to have that community really, really back you and support you, whether you win or you lose. Just overall, I think their overpouring amount of love and support has been like tremendous in a lot of my success. So it means a great deal.
Right. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, like having part-time jobs and stuff like that. Outside of like being an Olympic level athlete, like how do
Mhm.
you make it? I mean, you mentioned that it doesn't make a lot of money. So how else are you,
Yeah.
supplying income essentially?
Yes. So when I first graduated from Kansas State, even while on a, partial athletic scholarship, I was always working part-time. And then I kind of moved to working full-time just to support myself as I'm like an independent provider. I don't rely on my family. I never came from money. So it's just a huge um kind of thing that I know how to get through life is I have to do what I have to do to, take care of myself. And so that's been just all I've ever known. And so I do have my degree in dietetics, but I have a huge passion for food and hospitality. So any work that I could do in those areas, I definitely did, but it comes with finding out a schedule that works. And so that was always the hardest part because a huge part of my commitment in trying to be good at throwing is you have to dedicate, 4 or 5 hours of your day in the morning or at night. And that's really hard with a job. And then when season comes around, you're traveling and you have to take time off, and people are like, oh, you can't really do that. So it's very, very hard, but I have found people who kind of understand and support that journey. And so they've been willing to be flexible. But I've loved all of the work that I've done thus far. And I just, again, like I just find so much success on kind of um, putting myself on overload or filling my plate too full because I don't have any other choice but to be successful or getting the job done no matter what. So yes, we have a lot of work, histories, resume is full, but also getting that first Nike contract after falling short in 2021, that does help. But of course, those are always performance based with contracts. And so there's no rhyme or reason to when you get signed and to how long they're going to sign you. So again, you have to always just be willing to adjust and be ready for anything that happens.
Right. And part of that workload is your social media. You got a bunch of followers and
Mhm.
everything. Kind of describe
Yes.
your relationship with social media and how you're using it to not necessarily push yourself forward, but how it impacts your life essentially.
Yeah, social media was always kind of hard for me to really take on because I didn't want it to affect or play a role in my success in throwing because that was my first priority and commitment. And so I didn't want to kind of put on this facade either of like, oh, I'm this athlete, it's so glamorous, it's so fun. But also just really be open, real, and vulnerable and show the bad days just as much as the good. And that was the biggest part, but also realizing who I am and representing on this global stage, being Indigenous and being a woman, and that being strong is so beautiful and powerful. And that it's okay, if you're not a certain size as well as a thrower and things of that nature. So I just really um, grasped the idea of kind of who I wanted to be and what I wanted to represent. And so with social media, I found that very unique and I just shared my story as much as possible. And people really picked up on the hammer for one, because it's so uncommon and a lot of people do not understand it in the United States. I was once one of those people. And then also just to be a Native athlete and to recognize that we are still here and that we are doing amazing things in all perspective fields, and then being a woman and being strong, and that is okay is just one of the three things that I really, really strive to put out there in the world and to just hopefully empower the next generation of athletes that if you work hard and you trust the process that you can achieve your dreams, and there is no dream too big.